My name is Tom Campana, and I did the cover art image for Dark Zarus, and I'm going to talk briefly about sort of the process I took to arrive at the final image. For this image, I followed a 3D blockout to 2D paint over workflow because it's good for something where you can iterate on a lot, get a lot of feedback, and produce a final image with efficiency but with some specificity and polish. The original brief I got from Matt and Lauren basically described the characters, described their actions in relation to each other, sort of gave a general sense of what the secondary characters were doing, and gave a sense of the overall composition of the image. So the first step I took from that was to try to achieve sort of a loose early representation about what the characters will be doing. And I used some sort of base default 3D models to just pose and put into positions in order to sort of get some lighting and posing information. So there's different programs that can give you just default humanoids. For the background guys, I just went into Mixamo and grabbed some basic looking humans because the goal was always just to basically remove them entirely from the final image and paint over them. There's a program, Daz 3D, that will also give you sort of generic looking humans that you can move into shape. The goal was not to create something with fidelity at the step. The goal was just, what does this guy look like in relation to the scene and what is he doing? So once I had some very loose sort of blockouts for posing of the characters and their orientation, I shared that with Matt and Lauren to get feedback, to polish it, to update the poses until we sort of locked something we could use as a baseline. And then I brought those posed loose characters into Blender, which is 3D software that you can use for lighting, positioning, and rendering. And again, the goal here was a blockout pass, not a final pass. So in Blender, I added stuff that was sort of loosely representational of the ground, loosely representational of the environment. I brought in some lighting so you get lighting info. And you can see in the included files sort of the final output image. Like not even the characters don't even all have heads because it's just easier to do that in 2D than 3D. But it did give me a starting sort of base, which then moved into Photoshop, and the rest of the image was done entirely in Photoshop. In Photoshop, main goals first was complete paint over of the characters so that you remove a lot of the 3D look. There's an illustration layer, you can detail it up, you can adjust the colors, adjust the lighting. The environments were treated with sort of a much looser brush style to bring in more of an illustrative look than the output render. And then a lot of the additional painting after that was tweaking the lights, tweaking the color to try to achieve a final look that I went back and forth with Lauren and Matt a couple times to try to reach something that we all were happy with the final image. So that's sort of an overview of the process and the end goal and how I got from the beginning to the end. Hope this was interesting. Have a good day. Take care.